Were you raised in a narcissistic family, in a narcissistic household? Or maybe you're not sure. Oftentimes, people will get brought up in a toxic, abusive household and they don't even realize it until they get with a narcissist, till they get with a toxic person down the road and they're like, whoa, wait a second. This is how they acted. This is not healthy. I didn't realize this because healthy seemed this way because of what I grew up with and what actually happened. So, we're going to talk today about a couple different traits of narcissistic parents. What does this actually look like? How does this relate? How does this correlate? And also, just so you know, even from the kids' side, of what they're going to experience, what they're going to go through. So as we talk through this, narcissistic parents, let's first put this up here so we can just get on the same track. All right, so parents, narcissistic parents. We're looking at one aspect, okay, is self-absorbed. Now, when we're talking through this piece of being self-absorbed, a lot of times you will have a narcissist that is self-absorbed, right? That's what we're talking about. Narcissists see everything as being about themselves. Other people only exist to be able to serve the narcissist. So for me, I always thought people were in my life for them to be able to serve me. There's a sense of entitlement, the sense of peace of like, well, I need them to do what I want them to do. So with a child, it's like, hey, this whole thing is like, you need to serve me. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. Now, we have a 4-year-old. So narcissistic tendencies of parenting a 4-year-old oftentimes is this piece of like, oh, I'm self-absorbed, so like I want you to be able to serve me. This is a whole process that I've been breaking down, rewiring so that it's not that way. But that was the initial thought of like, oh, it's all about me. You just inconvenienced me because you came into my life, so you're here to be able to do what I want you to do. Okay? Very self-absorbed thinking. Not helpful, not good, not something that is part of my life. But that has been a piece of it, of like those feelings. So then I have to work on how do I actually change it? How do I actually work through it? But I'm trying to give you a perspective of narcissistic parents. A lot of times, kids of narcissistic parents will be required to do things that just the parent likes. So like the kid might not even want to do this, but the parent's like, no, you're going to do this. You'll see this a lot of times with like dads who are like super focused, like narcissistic dads who are very super focused into like the sports. And the kid's like, I don't even want to do that sport. And the guy's like, you're going to carry on my legacy. Like you're going to look this way. You're going to act this way. You're going to do this. Sometimes it's this pressure to perform a certain way to be able to lift up the parent's ego of like, oh, well, it's about me. Oh, look what I taught him. Look what he's doing because of me. Okay. Trying to get the kid to perform so well so that the parent can be like, yeah, look what my kid did. Okay, because it's all looking about the parent. Okay, sometimes people like we'll use another example. So like we use that for like sports. Let's say like the mom's a dancer and she thinks her daughter should dance too, but not better than her mom at that age. So she's kind of like pulling back and forth. And so most children try to do their best at whatever activity, but then she might be like, nope, that's too much, too little. Like you're gonna see this back and forth piece that gets super confusing when we're talking about adults that are parenting kids when the adults are narcissistic. Okay. So at this point, there's also a piece of like, as you move forward in your healing process and as you grow, you get to a place where you start to realize, wait a second, parent was narcissistic. There's still like this self-absorption piece. A lot of times you have to put up a boundary. You have to be able to kind of start separating a piece from that. All right. So then you have this other piece where number 2 here. All right, let me put it up here. Now, number 2 is unwilling to inconvenience. Okay. Because narcissists are like, hey, I don't want to be inconvenienced. Okay, by you. You probably saw this inside of the relationship of where you felt inconvenienced, of where he felt like he's inconvenienced by you. This is going to happen inside the same thing when we're talking about toxic narcissistic relationships. Like he's going to feel inconvenienced by the kids. Okay, narcissistic parents won't typically accommodate to the kids' needs, even if it matters to them. Like you might have a narcissistic parent that knows the kid has a certain allergy and won't even care. Like instead, lets the kid deal with the allergy. Lets the kid deal with the outbreak. Like this is wild, but it's true. Because I don't want to be inconvenienced by you, so I'm going to do what I'm going to do, even if that means it hurts you. Even if it means it's hard on you, the parent doesn't care. Like they're only focused on what I'm focused on in the moment. It's like a good example for me is there's this frustration that boils up if I feel like I'm being inconvenienced by my 4-year-old not getting to bed at time. Because then I'm like, I've got stuff I need to do. I've got things that need to happen. Then I need to go to sleep so I can wake up. Like there's this story that wants to go in my head of like, oh, she's inconveniencing me. When in reality, like it's my opportunity to be able to help guide and shepherd and like help her grow and develop her emotions. And instead it's not this inconvenience, but that's what my mind wants to tell me. And so understanding a lot of times narcissistic parents will be very frustrated with the kids because they're like, you're an inconvenience to me. You're upsetting me. You're upsetting my agenda. You're upsetting the direction I want to go. So you need to see this and be careful of this. Narcissistic parents will continue to degrade the kids and bring the kids down, making the kids feel like their worth and their value is not good enough. Imagine that. You see this inside of narcissistic relationships. The kids oftentimes grow up and get into narcissistic relationships because that's what they're used to. That's how they've been conditioned from the parents that were narcissistic. So this piece is super hard because then as you move forward, oftentimes you grow up and you feel like your needs don't matter. And so there has to be this shift and this focus on you actually focusing on your needs. You actually focusing on you because you didn't have that inside of the parenting relationship that you had with parents. Okay, another piece when we talk about narcissistic parents, oftentimes you're going to see this as being hyper controlling. Okay, when we're talking about this piece of hyper controlling, some of this looks like the whole self-absorbed piece of like, hey, like making sure you look and you do and you act a certain way, making sure that you show up as a great dancer, you show up as a great ball player to be able to make them feel better. But a lot of times, like narcissistic parents will be very controlling where they don't allow the kids to do things they actually want to do. Like usually this is because the parent has this like fear of like money, compliance, like ignorance about something. And he's like, oh, well, I don't want you to do this. And as a result, typically the kids are put through these like restrictive rules and regulations of like, you have to do this, you have to act this way, you have to be this way, you can or you can't do this. There's like this hyper controlling piece. It's not just necessarily like a helicopter mom, right? Where she comes in, like swoops up and fixes everything, like overbearing maybe. Like there's different pieces of that. But the over controlling piece is like letting the parent run the life of the kid completely. Like these are your dreams, these are desires, these are the direction you need to do, this is what you need to do. Now, it goes back to the self-absorbed piece of like, well, you need to do this because it makes me look good, right? But you're going to see this where a lot of times the children are forced into restrictive rules and making it feel better about the parent's image. You're going to respect the parent even if he's abusive. You're going to respect the parent even if he's an asshole. Doesn't matter. You have to respect because they're your parent, right? Like that's the mantra that they're going to have. So like think of it like you're going to have different parents that are going to limit the kids with doing different things, instead making the kids be like, nope, you can't do that. You have to do this instead. Maybe it could be like, hey, you can't leave your bedroom. You can't do this. Like there's all these different things to be able to make sure you fit into compliance. Slowly teaching the kids over a period of time to learn not to want anything. You're not allowed to want anything. It takes away your dreams, takes away your hopes, takes away your desires. And it kind of makes you think like, I can't really want anything. I'm not allowed to want anything. Super interesting. But a lot of times you'll see this where narcissistic parents will be this hyper controlling to try to make sure that they limit the kids, that the kids look or act a certain way, and then you struggle to actually want something for you. Do you struggle with this? Oftentimes with narcissistic parents, you'll also have this piece of being casually cruel. Okay? So we're talking through this. Oftentimes you're going to have where the parent is saying different things that might not at first come across of like, oh, they're being so mean. And to other people, it might seem like a joke. But oftentimes the narcissist will be cruel to the kids, making the kids understand that their emotions, their feelings, their needs are meaningless. They don't matter. This oftentimes is going to come across in a way where they're talking negative about their kids. Like they're making the kids understand that they aren't held in high regard. Like they're making the kids understand, hey, you don't actually matter enough for me to actually value you. So again, I'm going to put you down in front of the other kids. I'm going to put you down in front of a stranger, in front of someone else. You see this all the time. You walk through the store and you hear people talking about their kids. Like they don't even have to be a narcissist, and they'll be casually cruel. Like degrading their kids, making their kids understand that they're like worthless because they can't do something correctly or because they are just trying to get attention. You'll see this all the time. But narcissistic parents will do this where they're casually cruel, kind of putting the kids down. Maybe something where they're like throwing something away that the kid actually likes. Maybe they're actually figuring out like something that is actually like hurting the kid, like mentally and emotionally. They'll get mad at the kid for being normal, for having a cry, for fussing about something. Oftentimes because the parent even provoked it. Oftentimes you'll see kids that become hoarders. Like kids of narcissistic parents that start to hoard everything because they weren't able to keep stuff. Because the parent threw it away. or the parent didn't like it, or the parent was controlling in different ways, and they were like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And all of a sudden it's like, you just hurt me. Oftentimes this is hard because then you have to actually work through how to actually build love into you, how to actually grow you. Now, another thing that's interesting, and we talk about this in narcissistic relationships, is this piece of being incapable of love. Now, the wild thing about this is narcissistic parents, you'd think they would care about their kids. You think they'd love their kids. Not necessarily. Okay, because oftentimes when a kid is inside a narcissistic household, these parents don't love their kids the way that the children need to be loved. They love their kids based on the narcissist's ego, what he actually wants, what he actually wants to see. And so as a result, the kids are put in this like competitive environment to have to earn. This is why you have the golden child. This is why you have the black sheep of the family. They have to earn the love. They have to earn the care. But oftentimes in these type of relationships, the kids just go without it. They just never get it because the other person's not willing to actually enjoy it. Another person's not willing to actually connect with the kids. This is the hard part because the kids are continually trying to figure out, how do I actually earn this love? And the narcissist is not giving it. Typically because the ego is in the way. 4 things we kind of listed off earlier, being self-absorbed, inconvenience, hyper-controlling, and casually cruel. Oftentimes those things will still have the narcissist focus on themselves, so they're incapable of sharing that love with someone else because they're not even thankful for their kids, they're not even grateful for what they have in their life, and they're not even investing in the other person. Instead, it's all about the narcissist. So this whole piece of like, can a narcissist love? Oftentimes people ask this question. They can't love because the ego is in the way. Until the ego gets moved, there's no possibility for the narcissist to actually love. It's been a little bit different because you just kind of walk through different traits of narcissistic parents. Let me know if this resonated. Let me know how this applied to you. Let me know if this connected. Or if it didn't and the video is dud, then we'll just move on. We won't come back to narcissistic parents. But I wanted to bring this up because I had several people asking about narcissistic parents and what this actually looks like. If you want some more help with this, or if you want to help move forward in the healing process of dealing with narcissistic abuse, go to rawmotivations.com today.